Cannibal Corpse is an American death metal band formed in December 1988 in Buffalo, New York. With 35 active years in the music industry and 16 full-length albums, is the most famous band in this subgenre, achieving worldwide sales of millions of copies of all their albums, making them the best-selling death metal band in history, despite having to deal with censorship from various religious and political activists from many countries throughout their career. To delve a little deeper into this band, here are 5 facts about Cannibal Corpse that you might not know yet. Number 1. Chris Barnes was the original vocalist of the band for the first 4 Cannibal albums. After leaving Cannibal Corpse along with the rights to the band's first logo, he dedicated himself entirely to his side project 6 Feet Under, which was his second band since 1993. Barnes took care of everything in 6 Feet Under, from the group's logo to the cover art of the band's second album and obviously all its lyrics. While on the set of Ace Ventura, Barnes admitted to Jim Carrey that the way his neck moved while performing Hammer Smashed Face disgusted him, and Carrey mockingly responded while moving his neck, "What? This? Does this scare you? All that stuff you write and this thing scares you?" Number 2. The band's first album was Eaten Back to Life, and the songs from this album came to light because the manager of the record store where Chris Barnes worked sent the demo tape the band had recorded in '89 to Metal Blade Records, who offered them a recording contract a year after they debuted live. This album credits mention that it is dedicated to the memory of Alfred Packer, who is known as the first American cannibal. On the other hand, this album was banned in Germany until 2006 due to its cover, which shows a drawing of a zombie tearing apart its entrails and the extreme nature of the themes, although censored versions could be obtained. In this album, Francis Howard of Opprobrium and Glenn Benton of Deicide also provided backing vocals on the songs Mangled and A Skull Full of Maggots. Number 3. The covers of all Cannibal Corpse albums were all made by artist, illustrator, and comic book creator Vincent Locke, who initially, before starting to work with the band, devoted himself to making a comic about zombies called Dead World in the mid-'80s. One copy of this comic reached the hands of Chris Barnes, the band's first singer, and upon seeing the illustrations, he was so impressed that he immediately contacted the publisher to find Vincent, with Cannibal Corpse being the first band for which he would do an album cover. Unfortunately, starting with the album Tomb of the Mutilated, they had to make an alternate cover for all the band's albums so that they could be marketed, as some were banned in several countries. Number 4. George Fisher has been the vocalist of Cannibal Corpse since 1995 to the present day, but before dedicating himself to this band, he recorded 2 albums as Monstrosity, and while recording with them at Morrisound Recording Studios, the band Suffocation, who was in the next studio, asked Fisher to do guest vocals on their 1991 debut album Effigy of the Forgotten, because they were impressed with George's gutturals, and he ended up participating in the songs Re-Encremation and Mass Obliteration. Before pursuing music, he worked as a drilling assistant in the Baltimore area, and the size of his neck is not necessarily due to its dimensions and weight, but rather because, when he was young, he did a lot of headbanging and also did weightlifting, which prevented the bones in his neck from developing and growing properly. Number 5. Tomb of the Mutilated was the band's 3rd studio album and one of the most controversial. From this album onwards, the band had to start making 2 different stage arts for each of their albums, although it was still banned in Germany due to its cover and the concept of the album, which is based on necrophilia with a murdered girl. In addition to this, the band was also banned from performing during their tour in Germany at that time, and it wasn't until 2006 that the band could perform all the songs from this and their other albums without any problems. The song Hammer Smashed Face became one of the group's most famous tracks after the band, at Jim Carrey's request, made a cameo appearance in the 1994 film Ace Ventura.